Hi everybody, I'm Tony E at Show IP Interface Brief, and today I'm wrapping up day 22 of my 100 Days of Labbing journey, and it has been quite a day. It is Sunday, so I've had the day off from work, and my family's been occupied today, so I clocked in about 6 hours. I actually don't know if I did more. I probably did more than that, but I'm clocking it at 6 hours because I started early this morning. I stepped out for lunch. I went out in the backyard with the kids for a little bit, and so now it's nearly 11 p.m. and I'm just wrapping up. So I'm gonna give myself a solid 6 hours. I probably did more, but I don't want to give myself too much. I'd rather earn the time. So today I'm continuing on focusing some of my weak areas that we discovered in doing the Foundation Lab 2 from the INE CCIE Route and Switch V5 Foundation Lab 2. So I went ahead and started just building a lab myself. I have a pretty cool base topology that is really flexible and allows me to virtually any configuration on top of it. I really love doing that sort of stuff, being able to just take one physical topology and be able to slice it up into so many different logical topologies. It's the same way that any of the workbook vendors treat their topologies. Typically, they have one topology, one physical topology, and they split it up into separate logical ones. So this one, I started doing that and started just like layering all of the weak areas. So I did layer 2 stuff with multiple spanning tree. So I'm getting the hang of that, which I'm pretty happy about, because that was something that was weak for me the last time we did layer 2. So multiple spanning tree and just getting the hang of really predicting where spanning tree is going to shut down links and how it's going to interact with things like port channels and splitting VLANs to go evens one way, odds another way. That's just stuff I just want to get in really good practice with. Again, this is all foundational basic stuff, and I don't want to be stumped on foundation stuff in the future. If something's going to stump me, I want it to be something that's really hard, something really complicated. The foundation stuff and the basics, spanning tree, simple routing protocols, I want to have those just straight up muscle memory. And that's why I do these exercises. It's been the time today. However, I ran into lots of problems today. I tried doing a lab which incorporated layer 2. I mentioned multiple spanning tree. I also did OSPF routing, I did PPPoE, I did DMVPN, 2 DMVPN clouds, both with tunnel protection, MPLS, some LDP, I call it manipulation, and multi-protocol BGP, all layered on top of each other. And the fact is in the end, I just couldn't get it all to work. I just didn't have end-to-end reachability. Every time I would add another layer to the cake, I lost end-to-end connectivity. So I would go step back, simplify, and then add the layer, and then I would be good. And then I would put that behind me, and I would do the next layer, and then I would lose end-to-end reachability. So I'd step back, simplify, build again. And you know what? It's nearly 11 p.m. and I'm just here spinning my tires. I have been at this for a long, long time. And honestly, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm disappointed in myself not because I wasn't successful in achieving the lab. I'm disappointed in myself because I allowed myself to get sucked into the rabbit hole. I allowed myself to go down the rabbit hole and waste a lot of time. Now, granted, it was a learning experience. I did jump over to some documentation to help read a little bit and make sure fundamentally I have these things correct. And I felt like I wasted time today by just sort of like, putting in configs, typing, and have it not work, and then just backing everything out and then typing it all the same stuff again, thinking that it was just an order of operations that needed to happen. Sometimes there is an order of operations, not very often, and ripping the configs out and putting them back in is not often the solution. but I tend to use that more often than I should. And that's why I'm aggravated here this evening, because I allowed myself to develop bad habits. And this 100 days of labbing is not going to be successful if I spend it developing bad habits. So maybe that should be the lesson about today, is when you recognize yourself establishing some bad habits, and it's hard to recognize yourself doing that. But if you have a day like I had today where you just are wasting time and in the end it just didn't work and you maybe should have done a plan B or a plan C, that would be a perfect example of needing to dial it back and push forward doing something else. Don't waste your time. So I'm going to kind of draw up, I'm going to use the whiteboard and kind of draw up a little bit of the topology I was trying to do today. If anyone has any suggestions for what got me stuck, I'd love to hear it. I wish, I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed that it's just something that, oh, hey, Tony, hey, you missed this one command. You need to put this one command and it works. I hope that's the case, because, you know, sometimes you end up building topologies and you end up troubleshooting your own environment. And I don't want that to be the case, because that's the thing that gives me a headache the most. On top of all that, this morning I really started out designing and building the lab and executing the layer 2 portion of it. And right when I was ready to jump into the layer 3 portion, my entire ESXi crashed. ESXi server crashed. It gave me the purple screen of death, and nothing was reachable in the box. All the other VMs, everything was dead. So I had to go downstairs, plug in a monitor, physically reboot it, and get it back. And once I did, I wasn't that upset with the fact that I had lost all of my morning's work. I was not that upset about that. I don't know why or how, but I really took a positive spin on it and said, you know what, this just gives me extra practice on something that I need to practice anyways. So once the ESXi came back up and my VM came back up and I went ahead and started configuring the lab again, I breezed right through that layer 2. Now, granted, I had just done it within an hour or 2 hours before, so it's a little bit fresh in my mind, but I breezed right through it, which is just, repetition is key when you have good practice habits. So that was when I was in cruising speed. Shortly after that, things fell apart. And I'm going to bring up the whiteboard and show you try to show you what I was doing here. Okay. So I had 6 routers. Okay. This is router 1, router 2, router 3, router 4, router 5, and router 6. These routers are connected via a DM VPN, and so are these guys. Now, why did I do 2 DM VPNs? Does it make it any more complicated than the first? No, it doesn't. It's just I've been rehearsing DM VPN, and it can actually be the chunk of configs that you need to develop for DM VPN is actually quite a lot. It's more than other protocols. And I just want to try and get most efficient at it as I possibly can. So I drill it and drill it and drill it. So there's never a question on how to configure it. So it just becomes muscle memory. Okay. These are connected via between routers 3 and 4. I also introduced some routing protocols here. So I did these guys is going to be OSPF. This is going to be OSPF. This is really a fun lab, guys. It just didn't work. OSPF, and this was area 4, 5, 6. This was area 1, 2, 3 because of routers 1, 2, and 3 and routers 4, 5, and 6. This was going to be OSPF area 0. And in fact, this link here is going to be PPPoE. Between these two guys. Router 3 is going to be the server of PPPoE. What else did I do there? I implemented MPLS on the tunnel interfaces. I turned on MPLS on the PPPoE interfaces, so I'll kind of draw that up here because they're sort of virtual interfaces, and 4, 5, and 6, the tunnel interfaces. So I got OSPF working. That was fine. I could ping end to end. I could ping from, let me get a good color here. I could ping from router 1 all the way over to router 5, no problem, without MPLS. Once I turned on MPLS, I started to have some issues. I could only ping from one. I was unsuccessful reaching, excuse me, down here in the corner, I realized I wrote 4 twice. 4, 5, and 6. Once I turned on MPLS, I could only ping from router 1. I could ping routers 2, I could ping router 3, and I could ping router, I think I could ping router 4. I could not ping router 5 or router 6. So that was an issue. And so I really couldn't troubleshoot that too well. I even did some packet captures, and I really couldn't see what was going on. I thought maybe it was an MTU issue. I mean, I know that really doesn't have an effect, I don't think, but you know, because of all of the different layers of the cake that I was building, I thought that really the encapsulation on top of encapsulation on top of encapsulation was going to be an issue. So I went ahead and deleted the PPPoE interface and just went ahead and put my IPs and MPLS right on the physicals. So I backed out of the PPPoE and I said, you know what, that's just not working for me. These were also had tunnel protection on them, so I'll kind of draw it like a lock. Just to show that I have encryption in there too. So everything has MPLS. And then on top of the cake, we did end-to-end, which was multi-protocol BGP. And I went ahead and just threw some loopbacks on these guys, put them in VRFs, and kind of did a VRFs. And so I kind of did, even though it's not a CEPE situation, this sort of would be facing the CE and router 1, 2, 5, and 6 would be the PEs. So although I didn't actually have a CE router to simulate here, I could have faked it, but I figured that the loopbacks that I was configuring was enough. And in fact, in multi-protocol BGP, I was able to see all of the loopbacks. They were imported properly. They're carrying their route targets with them. Everything looks good, looks like it's going to work. And what was actually happening was, going back to the drawing board, I was sourcing some traffic from, let's see, what color will I use? I will use this yellowish color. I was sourcing some traffic from router 6, and I was actually pinging router 1. I went ahead and started capturing on this wire right here to be able to see the traffic leave and then return. And what I would see in Wireshark is I would see encrypted traffic leave. I would see encrypted traffic leave router 6. And on the way back, in the router 6 console, I would see an error message saying that it received a non-encrypted protocol 47 packet, which is regular GRE. And that would be inbound. So I saw the echo reply come all the way back, but router 6's interface won't accept it because it's only going to accept encrypted packets because I have tunnel protection on. So I went ahead and started capturing on number 4 and checking the bindings on number 4 and everything. I don't understand what the hell is going on. I really thought that this was going to be a breeze because I've dealt a bit with MPLS in production. I don't work for a service provider, but I have configured MPLS in production. I guess it would be considered probably basic work. You know, I'm not going to say I'm an expert at anything yet. And I've done it in these lab environments in different labs over and over and over and over. And I have the, the correct workflow, I think, on how to configure everything, what needs to happen first, dealing with LDP, multi-protocol BGP. I don't know. This is nothing different than, 25 multi-protocol BGP labs I've done before. Nothing really different here. But in the end-to-end connectivity did not work. So, it's a failure. It's an absolute failure, and I'm really disappointed because I wasted a lot of time going down the rabbit holes of just not really troubleshooting, but instead working the configs. And that's something I need to get better on. And if anyone ever wants to check in on me on Twitter, you could just tweet me at any time, and you could just say, stop working the configs and start troubleshooting. Because you can guarantee if I'm sitting at the computer and labbing, I'm probably working the configs instead of using show output to really, really troubleshoot what's going on. Or debugs. Debugs are an excellent source of information, and I rarely use them. I need to get in a better habit of doing that. So maybe this vlog today, this day 22, is a lesson on developing better habits, recognizing bad ones when you're starting to form them and cutting them off, and recognizing good habits and making sure that you keep those in. So that's what I have for today. For the rest of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to be targeting more of these subjects. I'm actually probably going to take this same topology here on the whiteboard and just sort of break it out into its components, sort of do little micro labs of each technology. I just thought that I could layer them all on top, and by solving each one, it would just work. But there's some underlying problems here. I'm not sure exactly what it is, so I'm going to go ahead and attack it by targeting them individually, and then maybe by Friday, I would hope that maybe I can build a big lab like this and incorporate layer 2 and a bunch of other stuff as well. And be able to solve it properly. And then Saturday, which is August 4th, I'm going to be doing the Foundation Lab number 3 from the INE workbook for CCIE Route and Switch version 5. So if anyone wants to go ahead and lab along with me, you want to go ahead and get your workbooks ready, get your topology built, make sure it's started and working ahead of time, because although we're labbing together, I really don't stop to help others troubleshoot. I learned that lesson myself on trying to do the Foundation Lab 1. I spent about the first 2 hours troubleshooting my environment when I should have been labbing, so it was a waste of time. So start your labs up Friday night. That's what I'm going to do. You guys can get the INE workbook. There's a discount if you're a new customer. If you use the new 10 promo code, you can get 10% off the purchase. So the book is $2.99. You get $29 off. It's a really good deal. I've really enjoyed the book and the labs and everything that goes with it. The explanations in the workbook I find are often very helpful. They explain a lot about the show output. They explain a lot about the configuration. It's really helpful. I enjoy it. There are other workbooks out there from other vendors, and I'll be using them too in the future. But currently, if anyone wants to lab with me, I'm in the INE workbook. I think that's about it. I want to give a shout out to all the new members over in the Landtamer Discord server. If you guys are going to be watching this, this is part of the 100 Days of Labbing journey that I started on preparing myself for the CCIE Route and Switch lab exam. So if anyone wants to lab along with me, you can always reach me on Discord. That's where I'll be chatting during my live streams. So I hope to see you all there. So big shout out to all the new members. Thank you all for joining the community and supporting us. And I hope that this is going to be a mutual relationship for all of us and all of you. All right. Thank you very much. And see you guys tomorrow night.